How's it going, folks? South Bay Rebel here, and today we want to look at the LEGO Tropical Ukulele. Now this comes from LEGO's Creator 3-in-1 line, and the other two builds are kind of like a tropical dolphin scene and a surfboard. And I chose to build the ukulele because it seemed to look the best of the three. That's typically how it goes in my experience with the LEGO Creator. Whatever the namesake is of the set and that main image on the front of the box art tends to be the most accurate of the three builds. Now, that's not to say that the other builds aren't nice in their own right, but they're typically just not quite as good, and in my experience almost feel like an afterthought. The main build in this particular set though is really nice, and I must say they did a great job. You can definitely tell it's a ukulele. They've done a nice job with the color scheme and that really light blue. It does give it a tropical feel, especially with the added flowers in there and the kind of sandy base that they've got it standing upright on. Now you are able to pivot it a little bit on that base, which is nice because it gives you some options for displayability depending on where you're putting it on a shelf and what angle you might be looking at it the most. So that's nice to have, and it's just good for playability to some degree. It's not necessarily a play set, but it gives it a little bit of extra, especially for displaying purposes. And it does look good from a multitude of angles, unless you're looking at it from just the backside, which is a little bit lacking, but in all honesty, it's probably not an angle that you're going to see too often, and definitely not one that I would recommend displaying when you have the front side that looks so good. You can see on the back there where they've mounted that yellow flower, and so that's kind of neat that you can tell where it protrudes from and kind of how it holds its position when viewing from the front side, but otherwise not really much to speak about or comment on in regards to the back of this build. Looking at the side view, again, a little more of the same, and that could be remedied by just rotating it slightly if you wanted to or were limited on where and how you can display it. Seeing here, you can see more of the front now with just a little bit of a turn, but again, it's going to look best displayed with the viewing portion of it front and center and looking at it head on. I like that you can add a slight angle to it to give it that dimension because it does have that dimension. It is nice and thick. It's not just a hollow fascia, which I do appreciate. And if you take advantage of that rotating aspect, you can really get it to be in a position that suits your needs in the best way. Up and down, it's got a nice long set of these strings. Now, I don't know if I've seen these in any other set before, none that I can recall anyways. On the neck of the instrument, you've got smooth brown pieces to mimic the wood bridge, and nice knobs up at the head of the ukulele to mimic the tuning knobs. And I think it was all just really well done, especially given the small piece count. Now here's a closer look at the mount for the flower. This is the yellow flower that peeks out around the top portion of the ukulele, and I like the splash of color with this orange pinkish kind of like sunset color flower as well, and that small purple one kind of gives it a nice balance of color and a real tropical feel. It's really nicely done. The base is kind of in this sand tan color, I imagine to mimic sand and really drive that tropical theme home. And you've got the nice features and the tuning knobs again up at the head as we take a closer look at that. Looking closer at the strings, again, you've got that nice kind of silver metallic color to them, and they are looking nice and tight. But if yours happen to look like this, kind of loose and all over the place, give the head of the ukulele a slight tilt and it'll snap back into place at a slight angle and get them looking nice and tight again like they should be. So that's just a snap on the head of the ukulele there as seen in that image, and they'll be looking just right. Considering how well this build displays, I think it's a great find and a really nice value, especially considering that it retails for between, I think, 20 and 25, depending on if it's on sale versus full price. You can't really beat that, especially given the fact that you can build 2 other sets with this, same pieces, but multiple options. I think that's a really nice feature that LEGO does. Even if I'm not always convinced by the other options on the box, I still think it's nice as far as playability goes to have multiple options. Well, that is going to do it for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you aren't already. That way you don't miss out on any future videos. And until then, stay tuned and I will catch you on the flip side.